Okay, well, I think we will go ahead and get started. This is Christy Kane with Kansas Project Launch, and we have put together, Ben has put together a Teambox webinar, which is a tool that we had talked about using for our early childhood mental health work groups and the steering committee. And we hope that it will be a tool that can really lead to increased communication and increased organization. As you will see through the webinar, there's a calendar feature so that we'll be able to see when the different work groups are meeting, and we'll be able to access different information about the steering committee and the different work groups. So we'll really be able to keep up to date on what's going on with the overall early childhood mental health efforts. And keep in mind that Teambox is the one that we decided to choose based on the information that was compiled about the features and usability and things like that. And so if you encounter any issues, please let us know as you're using it, or if you discover something that you think might work better, we're definitely open to that. But Teambox is what we have gone with for now, and so without further ado, I will turn it over to Ben, who is going to lead you through just a demonstration about utilizing Teambox. So does anybody have any questions or comments about Teambox before we get started? Okay, well, I will turn it over to Ben.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar this morning. So as Christy said, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of Teambox and all the different features to show you how you can use it to organize your work groups and communicate with one another. I believe now you should be able to see my screen if you are on the GoToMeeting website. So as we go through the meeting today, what we'll do is if you have any questions, you can feel free to post them in the chat area, and I will be monitoring that, and I can also stop to ask questions throughout the presentation. So without further ado, currently I'm on the initial page for Teambox, and there are a couple of issues I wanted to cover before I logged in. And the first one is that Teambox is currently in a transition. It's transitioning from version 3 up to version 4. And what that means is that you're going to want to make sure that your browser is currently up to date so that you'll be able to view the new feature. And I'm going to recommend that you all use version 4 because the layout is better, it's just an easier experience to use, and everything is moving in that direction anyway. So I think it would be easier for everyone if you just learn how to use Teambox once rather than having to learn both versions. So the issue with Teambox 4 is that they do not support Internet Explorer. I have been accessing Teambox in Internet Explorer, and I've noticed that there is an add-on that you can install, which I will cover later in the webinar. So you should be able to use Teambox if you have Internet Explorer version 9. Currently, I'm using Firefox, and you can also use Chrome, and those also you can use Safari if you are on a Mac, and those versions, those browsers are all supported. So I'm going to log in. Give me a second. And this is what you're going to see when you get to, when you've logged on to the website. And currently we're in version 3, so I'm just going to recommend that everyone go ahead and click on Start Using Teambox 4. And depending on what browser you're using, you may get a message during that step that says there was an error, but if you click on refresh or to retry, then you should be able to get on to the new version of Teambox. So this is what you see when you log on to the website. And there's really 6 main elements that we're going to go through today. So there's projects, tasks, pages, conversations, and files, as well as organizations. But before we get to that part, I just want to bring you up here to the settings to show you a couple of things. So if you hover over this arrow, you can get into the settings, and this gives you an opportunity to customize the different features depending on what you're interested in. So you can change your email if you want to receive it at a different email address, or your username. They also provide an opportunity for you to customize it and update a profile, but and you can also link Teambox to different accounts. And you're probably noticing that this website is not, there's still some issues here with displaying the different options, and that's because version 4 is currently in beta testing, so hopefully those issues will work themselves out pretty shortly. But the thing I wanted to point out to all of you was the notifications area. So here you can control how much email you receive from Teambox. And if you're following different work groups or projects, you can set that depending on if you just want to get like weekly notifications or maybe more frequent notifications. But so currently I have it set on instant notification, which means that anytime anyone updates on Teambox, I'm getting an email. And if you find that your inbox is overflowing with notifications, you can come in and switch this to just get a daily email with everything that happened, or a weekly email. If you want, you can also select to not get email, and for our purposes, I would recommend you either go with one of these 3 options, just because if you don't get any notifications and you forget to log in on Teambox, then you won't be able to participate in the conversation. So I'm just going to stop briefly and offer people a chance to ask any questions before we move any further. Okay. So moving on, Teambox has 2 main elements, and really the umbrella element is organizations. And so obviously for us, our organization is Kansas Early Childhood Mental Health, and that is basically this big umbrella where all of our projects are located. And so on this username, currently I've only invited myself to look at the Goal 1 work group. We actually have 6 projects on our account for all 5 of the work groups, as well as the steering committee. And if you're interested in getting access to the different projects, we can send invites or figure out if we want to invite everyone to view all the projects. That's something we can definitely talk about a little later. But currently, I'm just in the Goal 1 project. So basically, projects are where all the action takes place on the Teambox website. And really, it's one of the most important elements of the website. So things that you can do, you can add people, you can assign tasks to people, or create a timeline for tasks. You can upload files and post conversations. And if you click on the Members tab down here, you can see who is a member of each project. And there's 2 kinds of permissions that we're using. So most people are participants, which means that you can really do everything but invite new members to join your project. And some people are also administrators, and that lets you do everything and invite new people onto your projects. So when you log on to your project, one of the first places you can go is to recent activity. And this is basically a running stream of all the events that are occurring within a project, any comments that have happened, any additions to pages or file uploads, new conversations. All of that is going to be posted here in recent activity. And there are two ways that you can view this area. So you can view it in the compact view, which means that it makes it a little easier to scroll down, and you can see all of the activity on this project going all the way back. And if you're interested in expanding a conversation, you can just click on it, and from here you can reply in a conversation. And I'll get into how you can do that in a moment, but this just gives you a basic overview of everything that's going on. You can also view this page in the expanded view, which just expands everything. It's a little more difficult to scroll, but really it's just up to you, whatever you're more comfortable with. So before we move on to conversations, I'll just stop for a moment to see if anyone has any questions about recent activity. Okay, moving on to conversations. So if you are interested in finding a conversation, it might be easier to click on the Conversations tab, and then this has all of the conversations in this work group. And basically what the conversation feature does is it's where you can have general discussions, you can update your team members, you can pose questions to your work groups, and this can function as a replacement for email if you're logging directly into Teambox, or it integrates really nicely with email, and I'll show that in a second, so that if you are only using your email and replying within your email, it will centralize everything and update your conversations on the Teambox website. So in order to join a conversation, you can click on one that's already in progress, and you can just add to the conversation in the bottom here. And whenever you're done entering your text, you just click Save, and that will update the conversation. Or you can create a new conversation by clicking the Create a New Conversation button. So here you can just enter your text, whatever you want to put in the conversation. And there's a couple of different things that you can do when you're when you're starting a conversation, or when you're replying to a conversation in progress. You can upload a file. So you click on that once, then you click again, and it comes up with a file upload screen that you're able to, select documents or charts or images or whatever you want to upload into that conversation. And you can also upload Google Documents, or if that is something that you're using. And what you want to make sure that you do when you add to a conversation or when you start one is that you notify people. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. So you can click on the Notify People button, and you'll have to click twice to pull up a screen. And then you can select individuals that you want to notify. And I'm just noticing it is a little, this is a beta version, so that clearly that's an issue they're going to have to work out. But let's say that you want to add to a conversation and notify everyone. Currently, I don't see that option here. So another thing that you can do is if you type the @ symbol, that brings up a little dialog box, and that gives you an opportunity to click on, if you click on the All button, then you're able to send an email to everyone in that work group. This is also another way to select individuals if you just want to notify specific people. You can also just type, and it will do the same thing. So that will send a message to everyone, or you can type @ and the username, and it will send an email to that person. So you want to make sure that you notify people when you are starting a conversation, because then they'll get an email and be able to reply to that conversation. And so let me just show you really quickly what an email is going to look like when you have received one from Teambox. So this is an example, and it'll say, you know, here's the conversation, and this is the title of the conversation, and here's the text, and it just shows you, you know, when the person entered it, and it will have all the entries in that conversation. And then if you notice the reply above this line to post an answer, so if you hit reply, and oftentimes you'll get a lot of text here when you reply an email, so I would just take that out, and then, you know, you can enter your response here, and when you hit send, it's going to put that on the Teambox conversation. It will update it on Teambox. So this gives you an option to, you know, you don't have to log on to Teambox frequently if you're responding to the conversations that people are sending you just by email. Teambox gives you a centralized place where it will keep a record of all of your conversations, so that, you know, you don't have to look through your inbox, and it just gives you a place where everything is located. So I thought that was a pretty interesting feature. One more thing you can do, we're going to talk about tasks in just a moment, but if you're having a conversation and it's pretty clear that that is becoming a task that you want to assign, you can click on the Convert to Task button, and it will enable you to set a due date for that task and assign people to it, and I will get into that in just a moment. But before we move on, I see we have a question from Phoebe. So the question is, who monitors the conversations to decide when old materials can be deleted? That's a good question. There's a couple of different ways to monitor conversations. So once you've posted something, you can monitor what you've done and edit it up to 15 minutes after you've posted it. And then after that 15-minute mark, anyone is able to delete anything that they've created. Administrators can delete information at any time. And I believe there's also a way to archive conversations if, you know, you don't want to have them displayed anymore. But currently, that probably is only an option that administrators can do, and I'm not in an administrator account, but I can certainly look into that and try and figure that out. So hopefully, Phoebe, if you're there, did that help answer your question?
Yes, thanks. Ben, I'm wondering if the Goal 1 co-champions would be responsible for clearing out that conversation list, or whether that's an administrative responsibility. So when you find out if there's an archive, I mean, if you let us know, we can work that out. But
okay.
In other similar accounts that I have, it gets really unwieldy after a while, the scrolling.
Yeah.
And periodically we go back and take out conversations that don't have to be there anymore. But
there certainly is a way to archive conversations, and I think, you know, we can leave it up to each work group to decide if they want the co-leaders or the leaders to be in charge of that, or since I'm in charge of Teambox in general, that could be something that I do. You know, it's really up to the work groups to decide how they want to manage it, but I'd be happy to take care of that for you if that's something you're interested in.
Okay, thanks. We'll talk about it at our work.
That'd be great. I see I have another question. What's the lockbox icon for? And Rich, if you're there, could you, I'm just trying to find where you were seeing that.
On the post can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
When you post a new conversation,
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So the lockbox, so this icon allows you to control who can see a conversation. I guess the reason I didn't go into that is because there's really, at least under this username, there's no ability to change the option. So anything you post, everyone will be able to see. The difference is that you can notify specific people by an email if you don't want to send an email to everyone in your group. But everyone in your work group will be able to, go and view any conversation. So that's currently how we have it set up. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Did anyone have any other questions about conversations? Okay. And why don't we move on to talk about tasks? So there's a couple of things that you need to know about how you can organize your tasks. And really, tasks are organized by task lists. So let's say that, you have tasks for the upcoming CANE conference. You can create this new task list, and everything that you have that you want to do for this upcoming conference, you can create a new task for. So you enter a title, maybe put a brief description in, or whatever you want to do for the task. And there's a couple of things that you can do. As in conversations, you can upload a file. You can click to notify different people. You can also do that by typing the @ button and selecting all if you want, or just an individual. And so when you're creating a task, there's really two things that you're going to want to also do. The status indicates just the status of the task, so you can have it be unassigned if you don't know who's going to do something, on hold if you want to hold off on a specific task. And when you've completed a task, you can change the status to resolved or rejected if you want to cancel a task. Or you can assign tasks to different people, and then you can click on a due date. So we can say, you can click on the date, any date, and it will create this task. So if you click Save, and then you go up here into the calendar feature, and eventually it will, I see. So I like viewing this in the month feature. It just makes it a little easier. And so here is the task that you created. It shows up in the calendar. And if we go back to the task, so let's say you want to use a task to show when you're going to have a new meeting. All right, okay. So what you can do is assign a date, and for the purposes of meetings, it can be everyone assigned, and everyone will be notified. The thing about this is that it doesn't let you select a time, so you can get around that by just saying, next meeting and whatever in the title. You can just type the time that you want to meet. And then create that task, and it'll show up on your calendar. And that's just a way for you to keep track of when you're meeting. So you can also go into a task and, by clicking on the box below, you can make updates on your task. You can always add new files, change the status, so assign it to a different person, or hold off on a task if you want, and then that's a way for you to modify the tasks that you have in progress. Does anyone have any questions about tasks? Okay. Why don't we move on to talk about pages? And I'm just going to cover this topic briefly. And if anyone can think of a way to use this feature, then perhaps we can talk about it more. But basically, pages are a place for you to have like a library or repository of general information, that members can go to once a page is created. And each page serves as the top level under which you can add text, reorder things, and so, for example, you can name your page, create a brief description, and now that you've created your page, you can enter different text. You can also insert images or files, and so the divider feature is good if you want to have different sections. And so then you can edit things here. You can move them by clicking on this button and dragging. And you can also edit your page or, delete it if you are so inclined. So this is just a brief overview of the page feature. I wasn't sure if anyone was interested in using this feature, but it is available. So does anyone have any questions about pages before we move on?
What kind of things have you seen this used for?
That's a good question, and I have not been able to access, excuse me. I have not looked at other Teambox projects, so I haven't been able to see how other people have used it. And I wasn't sure how our work group could use it. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but just wanted to give a brief overview, and if anyone can think of a way that we can use this on your different work groups, I'd be happy to talk more about it with you. Any other questions about pages? Okay. We'll just talk briefly about files. So this section is a repository for all of the files that you've uploaded anywhere on Teambox. They will give you an overview and just easy access to all the files that you've uploaded. So you can double-click and see I've already created different files and folders for this work group. And this will be an issue, that it's going to take some upkeep to make sure that all the files are organized and located, where it makes sense for you to access them. But anytime you post a file on a conversation or a task, it's going to show up in this section. And so you can click on different files to download them or rename. You can also click and drag them if you are interested in. So this thing I thought was cool that you can do in Teambox 4. You can click and drag and actually move files into different folders. Just makes it a little easier. You can also create new folders relatively easily or add new files directly to this part of the website. Did anyone have any questions about files?
Is there any feature that links these the files to conversations or tasks whenever you're on the files folder?
I'm sorry.
In other words,
I'm not sure what you're asking.
look at a file, and does it tell me anything about, where it was linked in a conversation or anything like that? It just, not really. It's just sort of, there's the list.
Well, I could try. I think, I've been learning how to use this site along with everyone, and the way I had used this originally was just uploading directly to the file portion, but we can try really quick to just upload a file and see, what happens with that. So I'm just going to upload a file on this desktop. So here's an Excel file. And you have to make some kind of comment for it to post. So here the file has been posted in this conversation. And here it is in the files portion. So I guess to answer your question, it looks like it's not linked to that conversation. But you'll be able to move the file into different folders depending on what it is or where you want to keep it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Anyone have any additional questions about files? Well, in that case, that's all the information that I had to go through just to show you the different features of Teambox. I think, so we've gone through Teambox 4, and I can take you back and show you a little bit about accessing it in Internet Explorer. I'm sorry, did someone have a question? I see there is one from Phoebe. Are there any file formats that are not supported in Teambox? And I'm not really sure about that. I haven't come across any that aren't supported, and I believe that really it should be just about any kind of file that you want to put on the website. So I've uploaded Word documents, Excel documents. I'm sure that it takes PDF files, PowerPoint presentations. Really, any kind of file like that, you should be fine. And if you run into any issues at all while you're using Teambox, certainly you can feel free to get in touch with me, and I can help you work through any problems. Did that answer your question, Phoebe?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Before we move on, did anyone have any additional questions? Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch from Firefox into Internet Explorer just to show you what you can do to optimize your Teambox experience using Explorer. So I'll just log in really quick. So what you are going to want to make sure you do is have the most up-to-date version of Internet Explorer. So this is that error message I was talking about. So you can click reload the page, and it'll take you in to the Teambox 4 website. Unfortunately, Teambox does not support Internet Explorer, but what you can do if you are most comfortable using Explorer, or if you don't have any other option on your computer, you can go over here to upgrade your browser and install the Google Chrome Frame plugin. Alternatively, if it's an option, you can also install one of these other browsers to use. So you click on the plugin, and it gives you some directions, and you're going to have to restart your browser and allow for the Google plugin to run if requested. So, you click OK on that, and so I have already installed the plugin on this browser, so it's not letting me reinstall it. But what's gonna happen is if you just click through the instructions, and it's pretty easy to click install, and once you do that, close your browser, reopen it, and you should get a message at the bottom here that says that the Google Chrome Frame plugin is requesting access or wanting to be activated, and you click OK, and then you should be able to use Teambox in your Internet Explorer. I was using Teambox in Internet Explorer 8 last night, and it was definitely not functioning very well, so I would definitely recommend you upgrade to version 9 Internet Explorer, which is the most recent update. Does anyone have any questions about this? Okay, I'm just going to wrap up briefly by just showing you the old Teambox. And it's going to make me log in again. Oh, here we go. So this is the old version of Teambox. Those of you that have been using it, this is probably what you're more familiar with. You can see that the navigation pane is on the opposite side, and just some of the features are not as easy to work in. I think the Teambox 4 is definitely an improvement over this version. But a lot of the features are the same, so adding a conversation, your projects are over here, so when you click on them, you have all the different options. And just things that I've noticed that are different. The calendar feature is a lot easier to use in Teambox 4. Scrolling through the recent activity and conversations is better. And just the whole interface with working with files is better. Like in this version, you can't drag and drop. You have to go through menus to move it to another folder, for example. So just definitely it's a better version in version 4. Just the issue is if you're going to be able to have a browser that maximizes your experience and allows you to view the website. So that is all that I had for today, and we can leave the remainder of the webinar for people that have questions. And I see that I have one here, so I'll just read it out. For people who think they already know enough about Teambox and might skip the webinar, will you send out an email letting them know they should listen to the webinar to learn about Teambox 4 and issues for Internet Explorer users? I will certainly send an email out to all of the work groups and the steering committee. We're going to post a video of this webinar, and it will either be posted on your Teambox, or I will upload it to YouTube and send you a link so that you can view it. I'm also planning on creating just like a short summary of things that we've covered, the things that are really most important for you that you really need to know about using Teambox 4 and all the different features. So I will make sure to get that sent out and uploaded on Teambox as well. Did anyone have any further questions? Thank you, Phoebe. In that case, unless anyone has any further questions, that is all that I had to go through. So thank you all very much for attending this webinar. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. I'm one of the administrators on the Teambox website for us, and certainly if you need my contact information, you can get it through Teambox or ask Christy Kane, and I can help you work through any issues that you have.
Thanks so much, Ben.
Thank you.